Have you ever wondered why society's perception of beauty often leads to self-destruction? It's a question that lingers in the air, echoing in the minds of many. Today, we're challenging the norms, diving into the deep end of societal standards and their potential role in the development of eating disorders. We live in a world where standards of beauty are often unattainable, photoshopped into perfection, and served up as a daily diet on social media platforms. These standards are not just images, they are powerful messages, whispering into the ears of young adults. This is what you should look like. This is what you must strive for. The pressure to conform to these standards is relentless. It's like a tidal wave, washing over individuals until they are submerged, struggling to breathe under the weight of expectation. This pressure doesn't just come from media or peers, but also from within ourselves, a self-imposed need to fit into a mold that society has crafted. Yet what happens when the pressure becomes too much? When the desire to fit the mold starts chipping away at our health and happiness? That's when the potential harmful effects begin to surface. Eating disorders such as anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, and binge eating disorder are not just about food or weight. They are complex mental health conditions deeply intertwined with our perceptions about ourselves, our bodies, and our worth. These disorders can lead to severe physical and emotional suffering, damaging our relationships, disrupting our lives, and in the worst cases, proving fatal. Yet, despite these grave consequences, society often turns a blind eye, dismissing these disorders as merely a diet gone wrong, a phase, or a bid for attention. But it's time to change that narrative. It's time to challenge these norms and perceptions. It's time to delve deeper into this issue and shed light on the reality of eating disorders, because understanding is the first step towards change, and change is what we desperately need. So let's start the journey together, right here, right now. It's time to delve deeper into this issue and shed light on the reality of eating disorders. Eating disorders are often misunderstood and stigmatized, but what really are they? Let's unravel this. Eating disorders, simply put, are severe disturbances in a person's eating behaviors. They're not just about food, but are often rooted in complex psychological issues related to self-perception and the desire to control one's environment. There are three main types of eating disorders we'll be discussing: anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, and binge eating disorder. Anorexia nervosa is characterized by extreme weight loss or a lack of weight gain in growing children, difficulties maintaining an appropriate body weight for height, age, and stature, and in many individuals, distorted body image. People with anorexia nervosa may see themselves as overweight, even when they are starved or are clearly malnourished. Bulimia nervosa is a cycle of eating large quantities of food, known as binging, and then trying to counteract that behavior with extreme actions, such as forced vomiting or excessive exercise, to prevent weight gain, known as purging. This cycle can be driven by an intense fear of gaining weight and an obsession with body shape and weight. Lastly, binge eating disorder is characterized by recurrent episodes of eating large quantities of food, often very quickly and to the point of discomfort. This is usually accompanied by a feeling of a loss of control during the binge and experiencing shame, distress, or guilt afterwards. These definitions, while clinical, help us understand the severity of these disorders. However, they also lead us to some common misconceptions. Eating disorders are not a choice or a diet gone too far. They're serious mental health conditions that anyone can develop regardless of age, gender, race, or socioeconomic status. They're not about vanity, but rather, they are often ways of coping with overwhelming feelings or situations. Now that we have a basic understanding of what eating disorders are, let's explore each one in more depth. Anorexia nervosa, often simply called anorexia, is more than just about being thin. It's a complex disorder that's about much more than just physical appearance. It's a mental health condition that's characterized by an intense fear of gaining weight, a distorted body image, and severe restrictions on food and diet. Anorexia is often accompanied by an obsessive desire to lose weight, even when the individual is already underweight. This leads to self-imposed starvation and excessive physical exercise. The individual might also develop unusual eating habits, such as avoiding meals, picking out a few foods and eating them in small quantities, or carefully weighing and portioning food. But this disorder does more than just make people thin. It carries with it a host of physical and mental health risks. Physically, anorexia can lead to severe malnutrition, resulting in a weakened immune system, fertility problems, heart conditions, and in extreme cases, it can be life-threatening. From a mental health perspective, individuals with anorexia often experience intense feelings of anxiety, depression, and may even have thoughts of self-harm or suicide. The obsession with food, weight, and body size can take over a person's life, making it difficult for them to focus on anything else. Now let's take a look at some statistics. According to the National Association of Anorexia Nervosa and Associated Disorders, anorexia has the highest mortality rate of any mental disorder. It's estimated that over 30 million people in the United States suffer from an eating disorder at some point in their life, and anorexia is one of the most common. It's also worth mentioning that while anorexia is more commonly diagnosed in women, men can and do suffer from this disorder as well. In conclusion, anorexia is a severe disorder that goes beyond physical appearance, impacting both mental and physical health. It's a complex condition that requires understanding, compassion, and effective treatment. As we move forward in our discussion about eating disorders, it's important to remember that these conditions are not about vanity or a desire to fit a certain aesthetic. They're serious, life-altering illnesses that require our attention and care. Anorexia is a severe disorder that goes beyond physical appearance, impacting both mental and physical health. Bulimia nervosa, often hidden due to its nature, is a serious and potentially life-threatening eating disorder. Lurking in the shadows of society's perception of eating disorders, bulimia nervosa is a complex and insidious condition. Characterized by cycles of binge eating followed by compensatory behaviors, it's a battle fought in secrecy, away from prying eyes. The person affected may consume large amounts of food in a short time, only to purge it later through means such as vomiting, excessive exercise, or misuse of laxatives. The physical health risks associated with bulimia are extensive and severe. These include electrolyte imbalances that can lead to irregular heartbeats, even heart failure. Damage to the esophagus from constant vomiting, gastric rupture in extreme cases, and tooth decay from exposure to stomach acids are also common complications. However, the struggle is not merely physical. It's a mental tug-of-war, an exhausting cycle of guilt, shame, and fear. Bulimia nervosa is often accompanied by feelings of depression, anxiety, and low self-esteem. It's a vicious cycle where the eating disorder and mental health issues feed off each other, escalating the severity of both. Now, let's talk numbers. According to the National Association of Anorexia Nervosa and Associated Disorders, about 1.5% of American women suffer from bulimia at some point in their lives. That's nearly 5 million women. And let's not forget the men. An estimated 10 to 15% of people with bulimia are male. While these figures are staggering, they only tell part of the story. Bulimia often goes unreported and untreated due to the shame and secrecy surrounding it, meaning the true number of people affected is likely much higher. Bulimia, while less visible, carries significant mental and physical health risks. It's a silent struggle, a hidden battle, but it's a fight that needs to be brought into the open. Awareness, understanding, and compassion are our most potent weapons in this fight. Together, we can help those suffering in silence find their voice and their path to recovery. Binge eating disorder is the most common eating disorder, but is often overlooked. Let's delve into this a bit more. Binge eating disorder, or BED, is characterized by consuming large quantities of food in a short period, often to the point of discomfort. The individual may feel a loss of control during the binge, and intense feelings of distress, such as shame, disgust, or guilt, often follow these episodes. Unlike bulimia nervosa, binge eating episodes are not followed by compensatory behaviors like purging, excessive exercise, or fasting. The health risks associated with binge eating disorder are significant. Physically, individuals may face higher risks of obesity and related conditions such as heart disease, high blood pressure, and type 2 diabetes. These are not to be taken lightly and can lead to severe health complications if left untreated. Mental health risks are also a key concern. BED can lead to increased anxiety, depression, and even suicidal thoughts. The emotional turmoil experienced during and after a binge can be incredibly distressing, leading to a vicious cycle of binging to cope with emotional discomfort, followed by increased distress. Now, let's touch on some statistics to bring the prevalence of this disorder to light. In the United Kingdom alone, it's estimated that about 1.5 million people suffer from binge eating disorder. That's more than the population of Birmingham. Globally, it's believed that bed affects more than 2% of the world's population. Yet, despite these staggering numbers, bed often goes unrecognized. This could be due to the secretive nature of the disorder or a lack of understanding about what constitutes an eating disorder. Many people with bed suffer in silence, feeling too ashamed or embarrassed to seek help. Binge eating disorder, despite its prevalence, often goes unrecognized and untreated. This is a call to action for all of us. It's essential to raise awareness about bed and other eating disorders, to break through the stigma and to support those who are struggling. Because no one should have to face these challenges alone.